All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rekakwadash. Giving double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the hopefully elect. Shalom to all the brothers out here laboring in this truth with sincerity. Shalom to the few sisters that watch. It's coming back with another lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Just going into how, we're in the times, man, where, Satan is desiring to sift you, and I'm speaking to myself first and foremost. Because, a lot of times, man, those, wicked thoughts creep in, the thoughts of doubt, the thoughts of, are you really worthy of being in this truth? Man, this truth is, am I gonna be able to make it? You know how Satan creeps in, presenting things of the flesh to you, and if you go for it, man, you gonna fall out, man. You're gonna fall out of the faith, and ultimately end up being destroyed. But the thing about it is we gotta continue to pray, man. We gotta continue to pray because it's a constant sifting taking place. If it's not Satan, it's Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, man. And of course, if Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai sift you, it's over, man. It's over for you. But ultimately you were wicked anyway. But, with Satan, we got a fighting chance. But that's why we got to be on point, man. Because if Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai sift you, it's over for you. So let's go to the book of Luke chapter 22 and verse 31. It says, "And the Lord said, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan hath desired to have you, that he may sift you as wheat. But I have prayed for thee, that thy faith fail not. And when thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren." So we got to constantly pray to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai and ask for that strength, man, to be able to endure. Because we're constantly faced with challenges, constantly faced with hardship, constantly faced with ailments, all types of things, man. Satan coming at you left and right, man. But mainly, in your mind, man, that's that feeling of doubt, that feeling of, wanting to give up, but you can't, man. That's Satan. You got to fight that, man. And these things happen, man. But we got to continue to pray to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. So let's read verse 31 again. It says, "And the Lord said, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan hath desired to have you, that he may sift you as wheat." So we want to go into this word sift, and exactly, what it was saying here. It's seniadzo.
Strong's G 4617, seniadzo.
And it means to sift, to shake in a sieve, but the second definition is really what we want. It says, by inward agitation to try one's faith to the verge of overthrow, and honestly, if we rely on ourselves, man, we're not strong enough. Satan is a powerful entity, man. Satan is powerful, man. Satan has look at all the stuff that's going on throughout the earth. People. I just seen a video. Girl got a leg cut off. They fighting at a gas station, and the chick rammed the car door with a car, man, and the girl leg came off. That's Satan. You know, they had evil spirits on them, man. To even participate in that type of activity, you know, and clearly, you know, they don't have a clue of who Yahweh Shem Yahushua is, man. Yahweh Shem Yahushua is not dealing with them at all. He gave them up to Satan. So let's go to the book of Matthew, chapter 26. And this is really how you combat that, man. It's only one way to fight these demons. Only one way to be able to fight these demons. And we know we're not strong enough. You know, so we definitely got to rely on Yahweh Shem Yahushua. So this is the book of Matthew chapter 26 and verse 41. It says, watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. And we know that flesh is strong, man. The flesh is strong, you know, because most of the time, you know, if you give into that temptation, it's something that feels good to the flesh, you know. So the only way to combat that spirit is you have to watch, be vigilant, and pray. Matter of fact, let's go to the book of 1 Peter, chapter 5, and we're going to drop down to verse 8. You know, why, like it said in the book of Matthew, chapter 26, watch, you know, what is watching? Being vigilant. So let's see, this is the book of 1 Peter, chapter 5, and verse 8. It says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. You know, it says, verse 9, whom resist steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished in your brethren that are in the world. Let's get it in the NLT also. It says, stay alert. Watch out for your great enemy, the devil. He prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. Stand firm against him and be strong in your faith. Remember that it says Christian brothers and sisters, you know, but we know it's, you know, Israelite brothers and sisters all over the world going through the same kind of suffering as you are, you know, especially brothers in the faith, man, you know, through all the camps, man, you know, all the camps and GMS, you know, because this is the home of the truth. And like, you know, our elder bishop says, man, you know, the more you learn, the deeper you get into this truth, and the more Satan is gonna come at you, man. And that's a fact. You know, the more you begin to learn, the more Satan starts to pull at you. You know, to try to get you away, try to drag you away. And those words are true. So let's go into this word vigilant. You know, we know what it means, but it means to watch. Just like, you know, it said in the book of Matthew, chapter 26, verse 41. But it goes more in depth.
Strong's G 1127. Gregareo.
It says to watch. Second one, metaphor, to give strict attention to, be cautious, active, to take heed lest through remission of idleness some destructive calamity sudden overtake one. You know, let's see, I'm pretty sure I know, you know, what this word is, but we'll look it up anyway. It's idleness. It says inclination to laziness, sloth. And just like I heard the elder Manat Zakba, from the South Carolina, GMS South Carolina '08 say today, man, constantly do your videos, man, or the spirit will leave you. Being slothful will cause these spirits to jump on you, man. And the next thing you know, you sifted out the truth, man. So we definitely got to pray. We got to pray, man. Man, brothers are going through some hard stuff, man. Being tried, being challenged. But the only way to combat it is to pray to Yahweh Shem Shai, man. Sincerely pray to Yahweh Shem Shai. So now let's go to the book of Amos chapter 9 and verse 9. Because once Yahweh Shem Shai sifts you, it's pretty much over with. That's the end of the line, man. And we don't want to go that route. We don't want to get that far. We got a fighting chance with Satan because we got Yahweh Shem Shai on our side. But as soon as Yahweh Shem Shai gives us over to Satan, it's over, man. So this is the book of Amos chapter 9 and verse 9. It says, "For lo, I will command, and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations." Because we scattered all throughout the earth. Like corn is sifted in a sieve, yet not the least grain shall fall upon the earth. And speaking of the elect, the Lord is going to protect the elect. It's what it's all about. And that's where we want to be. We want to be in that light, man. Verse 10 is where we don't want to be. It says, "All the sinners of my people shall die by the sword, which say the evil shall not overtake nor prevent us." The people that doubt the Lord, the people that continue to sin, the people that continue to engulf themselves in iniquity, that say the Lord is not going to do that, man. That has got away or thought they got away with all kind of stuff behind the scenes and continuing on, and that sin keeps growing until all destruction comes upon you, man. Till Yahweh Shem Shai do something real dirty to you, that you can't come back from. So, above all, man, we gotta fight, man. This not gonna be an easy road. We talking about salvation. We talking about everlasting life. We talking about rulership, man. Rulership forever. So of course it's not gonna be easy, man. This ain't like winning no NBA championship. We talking about championship for life. So now we can go to the book of 1 Peter, chapter 4, drop down to verse 17. And it says, "For the time has come that judgment must begin at the house of the Most High, which are the children of Israel." It says, "And if it first begin at us, what shall the end be of them that obey not the gospel of Yahweh Shem Shai?" And this is speaking of us that know the truth, man, that know what we're dealing with. If it begin with us first, what about these people out here that's living crazy and dangerously, not even considering the Lord? It says, "And if the righteous scarcely be saved," the righteous is going to scarcely be saved. The righteous is going to barely escape the destruction to come, man. It says, "Where shall the ungodly and the sinner appear?" We know where they're going to appear, man. It says, "Wherefore let them suffer according to the will of Yahweh Shem Shai. Commit the keeping of their souls to him in well doing unto a faithful creator." So, we know we're going to be tried. We're going to suffer, man. But we're going to suffer for Yahweh Shem Shai. We're not out here suffering for no money. We're not out here suffering for To please Esau, Edom. We out here suffering for Yahweh by Shem Shai. Matter of fact, let's get this in the NLT. This book of 1 Peter chapter 4 and verse 17 in the NLT. It says, for the time has come for judgment, and it must begin with God's household. The household of faith, man. It says, and if it begins with us, what terrible fate await those who have never obeyed Yahweh Shem Shai's good news. It's true, in all aspects. It says, and also, if the righteous are barely saved, what will happen to godless sinners? They're going to be destroyed. That's what's going to happen to them. So the notion of people out here saying that they are already saved is this right here smashes that, man. And you really don't hear that no more coming from these people because that's been debunked. Verse 19, it says, so if you are suffering in a manner that pleases Yahweh Shem Shai, keep on doing what is right. Through all adversity, man. Keep serving Yahweh Shem Shai. And trust your lives to be, so like you trust your lives to the power who created you, for he will never fail you. So Yahweh Shem Shai got us, man. We just got to keep pushing through all the adversity, And if we get to that point, man, we definitely got to lean on the brotherhood. We all men, we like to deal with things ourselves, man. But sometimes things can be overwhelming, But that's why we got to pray and, rely on the brotherhood. But, this was just a quick lesson through the spirit and power of how about Shem Shai. Lord willing, it was edifying. We want to constantly give our praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh by Shem Shai, by Shem Kakwadash. Shalom.